as quickly enough, and then it starts to work. So good morning, Kiss Junkie. It's good to see you. I'm glad to have you back here. Prairie Sun's good to see you as well. And all right, we're live on the mainstream. Sonia, good morning. Jesse, good morning. Cheryl, good morning as well. Hugs, thanks to all of you. And hi, Rocky and Jesse. Good morning, Rocky. Good morning, Rocky. I hope Rocky is the bird. And Rocky is apparently one of my biggest fans. Rocky is ready. Oh, God. I hope you're well, Jesse. I hope all of you are well. Well, a lot of messages already. Okay, let me just start. The Chinese spyware TikTok for as long as we have it, and hopefully it is going to be banned sometime soon. Bridget, good morning. Bridget, Sonia, everybody. Well, okay, so a few people starting to pop in here now. I hope you're all well. I hope you weren't stuck in yet another snowstorm. This was the 5th time I was coming back to Toronto, and I got stuck in a snowstorm. And I got to tell you, I'm getting a little tired of this. I'm trying to... there was a time where I was living in a place where it's 23 degrees every day of the year. And, I keep getting asked, why would I ever move and come back to Canada from that? And the only conclusion I can come up with is, there's your evidence that men make bad decisions. So there you go. So here I am. I hope you're all well. Alberta Blue Sky, good morning. Good freedom lovers, good morning to all of you. We got a lot of stuff going on this week over the past couple of days while I was in the truck. Things are getting a little a little feisty. But I'll get to all of that stuff in a little bit. I did have, finally, one of the smear merchant stakeholders has left a comment on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, the smear merchant stakeholders, that's kind of the equivalent of Canada's 50-cent army. So in China, the CCP pays 50 cents to somebody who does a post that attacks their opposition. In Canada, we have this thing called Freedom Corp that I used to be a part of, and that's part of the Conservative Party and the whole Big Con Canada Inc. And what they've done is they've put together a communications strategy, which War Campaign has exposed and walked through because they were one of the platforms they were trying to capture to use to smear myself and anybody else who questions their fake narrative about some sort of deal in Ottawa that never existed. So those are the smear merchant stakeholders. And, these people were identified. Many people were identified on their charts. I had shared them before. I'll do it another time. But they were identified as stakeholders. So it's no longer stakeholders, no longer community groups. Stakeholders are now YouTube channels that will attack people and make them look bad. So anyways, everything's a mess. What can you do? But when you... so I've been dealing with this for, I don't know, almost a year with all the attacks and smears and all that stuff. And, the lies and the defamatory statements and all that stuff perpetuated mainly by, a group of lawyers that are politically tied and all that sort of stuff. Found out some very interesting things about them this week as well. More is going to come out in the near future. It's it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But it's funny. So when somebody comes in, we had this. Bridget and I had this in a Twitter space this week when one of these smear merchants, one of these stakeholders, came into a Twitter space to try to defame myself and Bridget. When you respond and you finally catch them, they slip in very quickly into what I discussed in the last live stream, which were the 7 signs of cognitive dissonance. So they slip into cognitive dissonance, and full credit here to Scott Adams. Whether you agree with him politically or not is not my point. I'm just talking about strategy, thinking process, understanding communications, and how people respond to different messages. That's why, look, I've been learning this stuff for many, many, many years, and that's why I was effective at doing a communication strategy for the Freedom Convoy. And there are many things I wish I knew then that I know now. Bridget and I have spoken about this, and I just had a long conversation with somebody yesterday about it. But it is what it is. Despite that fact, I still used those skills. And Scott Adams is somebody who's kind of, I put him in the same camp as Cialdini. Another person who's very, very, very skilled in this area is Reid Hoffman, the CEO of LinkedIn. He's also understands this very, very well. So I'm just a novice, but I at least understand all this sort of stuff. So when, this is his name was Jimmy. Jimmy came in and started attacking started attacking Bridget and started attacking myself. And it's all, again, it's not a question, it's an accusation. And it's usually a vague accusation that when it's really vague, there's really no way to respond to it. You can't respond to vague assertions because they want to make a vague claim. They want you to mind read and then address their specific smear that they're going to bring out in the rebuttal. So, and Jimmy also slipped into one of the 7 signs of cognitive dissonance, which was number 2, ad hominem, and I'll explain those in a second. And once I caught him, and when Bridget said, "Oh, he's connected to Chris or whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, are you a stakeholder, Jimmy? Are you working for one of the stakeholders?" And then what happened? He left, right? So, but anyways, so when you do push back against people, and you see this with people from the left as well, the pro blackface people, the you're a bigot, you're a racist, and whatever, they're going to slip into one of the 7 signs of cognitive dissonance when you got them. It's when you won the argument. That's the key. If you just call them names, then you're not really getting anywhere. But if you actually, if you know the direction that they're going and flip it against them, and you have them trapped, then they slip into one of these 7 signs. So 7 signs of cognitive dissonance, which I'm going to talk about over time. Scott Adams is trying to popularize it, and I actually want to help him popularize it because I think this is very important for us to understand how people actually think and communicate. The 7 signs of cognitive dissonance, according to him, are as follows. Number 1, and remember, this is when you've caught them and you've won the argument and they don't know how to respond. Number 1, they change the topic. Number 2, it's an ad hominem or a personal attack. Nobody likes you, Dichter. Number 3, mind reading, right? They're projecting what you actually feel and think without actually understanding that. Number 4, I call this the blackface Trudeau. Trudeau does this all the time. Word salad, right? Trudeau doesn't know how to answer the question, so he just gives you a whole bunch of word salad. They're just words. They're not even sentences. And you could scramble around, like just throw a bunch of words on the ground and then just put them together in any order. That's what Trudeau does. So word salad. An analogy without reason. So they're going directly to, well, it's kind of like, remember in this movie when the captain did so-and-so, without actually getting into the reason for the reason that they should basically be putting forth, right? It's too complicated to explain. Now, that has an asterisk for me. It's because sometimes it's, I don't know how to articulate it to you. I'll do my best, right? So there's sometimes a little bit of gray area for me with it's too complicated to explain. But you see it often when people are just like, "Oh, I can't just," you'll never understand it. You'll never understand it. It's too complicated. Well, that's a lot different than struggling to explain it to you. So that's number 6. And the number 7 that you all know from the interview with Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman in Channel 4 in the United Kingdom, which is the "so you're saying" straw man. Oh, so you're saying X, B, you know what I mean? It's not what you're saying. What I'm saying is what I actually said, right? Yeah, Ben is a Fed. There you go. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating when you go and I remember one time I was, I was getting these, oh, he's a Fed, blah, blah, blah. When I was going in to get my truck repaired for, I think it was for my DOT, and it was a very expensive DOT. And I was like, fuck, where can I find the money for this? Okay, I just kind of dip into a little bit of savings. There was money coming in, a line of credit. I'm like, okay, I'll pay for this. I'm like, you know what? I wish I was a Fed. If I was a Fed, I could pay for my truck right now. Like, it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. But yes. Hitchhiker, what's up, brother? Good morning. What's it called? Okay. Oh, Bridget and Jesse are talking. All right. I love when you guys talk in the chat. So anyways, those are the 7 signs of cognitive dissonance when, and you'll see this increasing more and more as we get, as the people who knowingly and maliciously sabotaged us and then subsequently defamed us and then raised money off the backs of other people while throwing the rest of us truckers in the ditch. As they get called out more and more by more and more people, you'll see those 7 signs of cognitive dissonance, right? So just get used to calling that out, right? There is, and you see that also, an example, Keith Wilson does this. The word salad that's the one that he uses. And he does it well, but he does it in a way that you'll ask him, like something like, this happened to me a bunch of times, like, I don't know, who told you, who gave you authorization to go speak on our behalf to the city of Ottawa with the Dean French, the best friend and former chief of staff of of lockdown Doug Ford? Who gave you permission to go and start working at a deal with them without telling us first? How does he respond? Bridget, I'm sure you've seen this too. Jesse, I know you've seen this too. How does he respond to that? This prime minister has been eroding away at our freedoms for years now. He's decimated our economy, and he doesn't like when I cut him off and I say, cut the bullshit, answer the question, right? That's how you break through the word salad. It's what the media doesn't do with Trudeau. So Keith Wilson and Trudeau use exactly the same strategy. I would argue that Wilson used it a little bit better. But they're all in on it, and all of that will come out over time. I mean, he's slipping into irrelevancy anyways. I don't know why he's anywhere. He's not a lawyer for anybody. James Mason is the lawyer for Freedom Corp. What's his name? The criminal lawyer. They have another criminal lawyer. Greenspan is the criminal lawyer. So I don't even know why he's hovering around any of this stuff. Like he's sending threatening letters to a war campaign. Why? Go away. Just get out of here. You're dismissed as legal counsel, as I found out, prior to the POEC. Why he was even there, I don't even know. Anyways, enough with that. That's, who really cares about irrelevant people? So, lots of stuff has been happening in the news. I think you might have saw on Strong Woman. You guys are all awesome. The Vincent Key, who is a member of the legislature, the Ontario legislature, and you'll ask why the hell am I talking about it? It's relevant. Has been removed finally as a member of the Ontario Conservative Party, and he is, I believe, Don Valley West, if I remember correctly. Don Valley East or Don Valley West or Don Valley North. I don't know. Somewhere in the Don Valley is where he is. He's near my doctor. That's all I know. And so there was a report that came out yesterday. I don't know who broke the story. Sorry if whoever broke the story. Can't give credit, but I was, trying to come back in a snowstorm. There's a bunch of other things going on. But somebody broke it that he is, a loyalist to the Communist Party of China, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. And I thought it was very interesting that they're bringing up now that he's a CCP loyalist. Do you know when when I say we, I don't see just myself. Many of us who were much more politically engaged in that party in the past, when we found, and this is one of the reasons I just they make me puke, they make me want to throw up. Do you know when we found out that Vincent was a loyalist to the CCP? Take a guess. Somebody in the chat, tell me. When do you think Ben has a Ben has a doctor, definitely a Fed. That's right, only Feds have doctors. They have a doctor and truck bills. And it must be so dumb. Remember when they also did? It was Mackenzie. He's not even a real. He was running his mouth. He's not even a real trucker. The guy's a Fed. He's not a real trucker. Doesn't even drive a truck. I'm like, well, I think you've all seen my videos from. Listen. I'm just private. I just like my private life. That's just how I am, you know? And the Freedom Convoy wasn't about me. I didn't want to talk about me. I wanted to talk about you and ending mandates and ending ArriveCan. It wasn't there for me to go talk about, BJ and all. That's not what I was there for. I was there to help get the message out about what the Canadian government and the provincial governments are doing to all of you, and how you wanted change. It wasn't there. I wasn't there to talk about myself. Yet somehow that means because I'm private and I don't talk about myself and I talked about all of you, that I'm a Fed. It's so funny. Anyways, the good morning. Oh, Andrea, good morning. So I'll tell you when, because nobody seems to get this right. We found out that Vincent Key was a CCP loyalist before he was elected. That's right. Everybody in that party, Doug Ford down, all knew he was a CCP loyalist, and they let him run anyways. Political entryism is a unique problem, and it's a very severe problem in Canadian politics. And if you think it's bad on the provincial level, on the federal level, it is so much worse. There are so many more people. And it's not just the CCP. It's other foreign, let's say foreign interests, sometimes foreign governments, sometimes other entities that are foreign, who have maybe some alien values. Those people have groups of people all over, I mean, not just in Canada, but let's talk about Canada specifically, that are... they're all loyal have loyalties outside of this country, and our political operatives, I guess political operatives too, but our elected officials and party officials and behind-the-scenes party people who actually run the parties, they know, and they do nothing about it. Why? Money and volunteers. That's why. That's it, right? They're looking at a spreadsheet, they're counting votes, and they're thinking, well, we can get this block of vote here, this block of vote there, that block of vote. But yet, that's the Medellin cartel. Doesn't matter. They're voters anyways. Like, they're such weasels. They really are. Anyways. So, yeah, it's nothing new. They've all known. Doug's known. Everybody's known the entire time. And the Liberal Party is no better. It's it's significantly worse. And it's because all of us just sit back and do nothing and say nothing, right? So all of us are to blame, right? RCMP is starting to investigate Chinese police stations in Canada. Yeah, something unique that I haven't talked about is I'm trying to explain this with saving people's identity. Maintaining their anonymity. Let's just say during the, if you all know who Ai Weiwei is, Ai Weiwei is an activist against the Chinese Communist Party from China, world famous. He's an artist, and I don't like all of his politics, I got to be honest, but it's very kind of left in a lot of stuff, but whatever. You take the good with the bad. And when when Ai Weiwei had his installation in Canada, at the Art Gallery of Ontario, which if I remember correctly, somebody I'm sure can correct me on this, 2016 maybe, 2016, 2017, it could have been sooner, I don't know, but there was an art installation by Ai Weiwei there, and what the Chinese government, the Chinese government was doing is it was using that as a center hub to spy on Chinese Canadians, to then threaten or jail or arrest their family members who are still in China. That's what happens in Canada. Thank you, Justin Trudeau, for this, by the way. This is why the Iranian embassy was shut down by the Harper administration, whether you like Harper or not, because the Iranian embassy was doing the exact same thing. Well, that's what the Chinese government was doing. Now, I guess now they're actual formalized police forces. I don't really know. Like, that's kind of crazy. But they're there to harass Chinese Canadians. They're there to harass people affiliated with Epoch Times. They're there to harass people, whether you agree with them or not, who are affiliated with Falun Gong and all that sort of stuff. In Canada, everybody gets the right to speak. At least that's supposed to be, right? In China, not so much. So Ai Weiwei's art installation at the AGO was a center hub for espionage against Chinese Canadians to target and harass them. So, does anyone in the AGO care? Does any of the lefties care? Everybody who virtue signals around minorities and this group and that group, did any of them care? No, none of them give a shit. And you know what I say to all of them? All of them I say, don't be a chooch. If you know, if you live in Jersey, you know what that means. Yeah, they're hitchhiker. No, they are all undercover here illegally. I don't know. I don't know if they're here illegally or if they actually. There's a whole bunch of passport scams as well that goes on that actually goes to the level of cabinet in the Liberal Party. But that's a whole other mess. Ontario MLA found to be part of CCP election interference. Global News article. Yeah, so maybe shocking that that legacy media is reporting this stuff, but maybe they're trying to regain some of their credibility. Don't give it to them. They've done too much damage in the past. Like, yeah, pat them on the back when they get something right. But you know what? If I knew, 5 years ago, whatever it was, if I knew, and everybody in the Ontario PC party knew, guess what? Global News knew as well, right? They took until now to say something. And that's the problem. Because all these problems get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then somebody finally says, oh, okay, well, maybe this is a problem. So, Freedom Cowgirl says on Locals, we are all quitting of trusting the government. Good. See, this is progress. My biggest problem with Canadians traveling all over the world and living in a bunch of different countries is the naivete of Canadians who, for some reason, trust their government. I don't get it. It makes no sense. Everybody in the world knows their government is full of shit, except for Canadians. What is wrong with us? Really, what is wrong with us? Yeah, Sonia, don't be a chooch. You know, like, it's so crazy, man. Ugh. Anyways, don't be a chooch. No, they're illegal. They're kind of bang on, Miss Cheryl. It's now a tinfoil crown wearer to be proud. Yeah, well, listen, there are conspiracy facts and conspiracy theories, and some conspiracy theories become fact. That's why it's a theory, but not all of them. There's a lot of them that are just kind of, like a lot of them you can see so right through, like they're obviously not true, but that's the world we live in. There's your evidence that people don't make their decisions based on information and data. They make them based on emotion. All right. Next thing that happened, which I'm sure you're going to I wanted to talk about today. People are intellectually lazy. Yes, they are. Easier to believe the government cares. Yeah, I guess. I mean, we are kind of. I've mentioned this before. I remember listening to a Hunter Moss interview many years ago. I don't remember what I was listening to it on, but he's a producer for a podcast, but like one of these really brilliant research guys. I think he's more on the other side of the political spectrum, but whatever. I disagree with him on, his philosophy, but the information is interesting. And he was comparing he was getting under like the philosophical underpinnings of Americans and why they're so pro-freedom. And I don't remember if he contrasted Canada or if that was kind of my projection to contrast Canada, because so many years ago. But whether he came up to this entirely or I put this together, this is kind of how I look at it. That Americans, they got their independence how? They got their independence by going to war and fighting and dying for it. That's why you see this whole, and even before that, I mean, who came to the New World? The people who wanted to get away from the thumb of the monarchy and have the freedom to explore across the prairies, across North America, this new land, and settle here. So you have to be a kind of your ideological underpinning has to be about freedom and independence to be that sort of person. So ultimately, they had a civil war, and they gained their freedom, which is entrenched in their constitution, which is why all the lefties and the communists want to destroy all the tenets of their constitution, because that piece of paper is the fundamental underpinnings of the country, right? So Americans fought for their freedom, and they know it, and they remind themselves about it all the time. How did Canada gain its freedom? We waited. We waited until it was granted to us by the monarchy, who technically is still, even though practically not, still technically head of state. And I think that's what's really eroding at the underlying philosophy of Canadians is we never had to fight for our freedom, so we really don't understand the value of it the same way that Americans do, with an exception. An exception would be, and all those troublemakers in Alberta, right? You notice those troublemakers in Alberta, that they're always big on freedom, and they were so in favor of the Freedom Convoy and what we were doing. Well, very interesting that a large part of Alberta was settled by Texans. What does that tell you? And that's why the philosophical underpinning of the people in Alberta is unique to the rest of Canada, because they descend from people who had to go to war for and fight for their freedoms, which is why it's such a threat to the Laurentian. I don't use the term Laurentian elites. It's Laurentian scavengers, because they're all global scavengers. That's why Albertans in particular, are a threat to the Laurentian scavengers, because those are people who, in principle, value their freedom, independence, right? Anyways, have a wonderful day. Got to go. Okay, Sonia, peace, love, freedom, hope, unity, and love you too. Thank you, Sonia. All right, SVB Bank. Let's talk about SVB Bank. Second biggest bank failure in U.S. history. I don't know how much money it is. It's a lot of money. It's mainly venture capital money in the tech sector, and it all but completely collapsed yesterday. I don't know. I remember thinking, wait, is that where Facebook keeps its cash reserves? SVB Bank is, by the way, is Silicon Valley Bank, which is why it has so much of the tech sector money in it. And I'm no economist, but I have a passing interest in economics and markets and all that sort of stuff, which is, I guess, part of how I got into Bitcoin. And, there's a lot of people you would see yesterday, like Mario had obviously a space to talk about it, because as soon as there's something, he jumps on it and has a space. And there's a lot of speculation now, people talking about, are we entering a GFC 2.0, which is what many people have been speculating for years, that we are in the everything bubble. The GFC was the real estate market bubble in the United States. Canada was not hit nearly as hard. I think, if I remember I might get the numbers slightly off because it's been a few years, but if I remember correctly, I'm going to be in the right direction, even if the numbers slightly off. If I remember correctly, in the United States, their housing market was market exposure was 27% of mortgages were subprime mortgages, meaning junk mortgages, right? People who are more than likely to default. The Canada at that time only had 3% subprime, because we always wait, and we waited so long that we finally got into allowing subprime garbage into the Canadian housing market, and then boom, it collapsed almost immediately after. So that's what kind of saved Canada a little bit. But because we are tied to the U.S. economy, what's it, 72% of our GDP, if I'm not mistaken? It fluctuates all the time, but it's a large number, is tied to the United States. That's why we were affected. Countries like Australia weren't even affected at all. It's like they didn't even have a GFC. They had a market collapse afterwards, something entirely different. So that's what happened in 2008. I was living in Florida at the time, which was probably the worst hit market or jurisdiction in the United States. And I've said on this stream a couple of times, my friend who bought his house for $1.8 million over 2 or 3 years, it inflated to a value of $3.8 million. And then the market collapsed, and 3 months later, when he was getting a divorce, he had to sell his house for $950,000. So that's what happens when you build these massive bubbles in the economy. When it collapses, everybody's affected. Whether you know about economics or not, whether you understand fiscal policy or not, you're all affected. Well, right now what we have is the everything bubble. It's not just housing. Everything is inflated. Corporate debt is, last I checked, it was like $30 trillion. Corporate debt is huge. The entire market is inflated everywhere. And now we have inflation of our dollars. That's now where you're feeling it. Only in a couple sectors, energy and food. Most sectors are actually deflationary right now, which is why it's odd. But we spend most of our money on food or energy. That's why we feel it. So SVB Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, collapsed yesterday. You saw it was trending all over the place. GFC 2.0. Are we going to head into another financial crisis? I tweeted out something like, what did I say? I said, just cue the quantitative easing and bailouts and rinse and repeat, because that's what they did last time. And that's just going to inflate your dollars away even more. Because that's the only thing they can do at this point. There's not much they can do. That's what happens when you have, and I don't know if people understand this, that's what happens when you have a socialist monetary policy. Do you understand that our monetary policy is socialist? It's not capitalist. So when people say we live in a capitalist society, all the communists, capitalism is destroying. Like, no. Our monetary policy is socialist because you have 12 people at, I'm being hyperbolic. I don't know how many people it is, but a small group of people that think they can, adjust the levers of the economy by adjusting the interest rate. That's not a free market. That's a group of people trying to manipulate the economy. That's socialist. That's not capitalist. It's the opposite. If we had a capitalist financial system, then we would be way better off because we likely wouldn't have these dramatic peaks and valleys of which the amplitude is always increasing with each economic collapse. It's the socialist banking system that's doing this to us. And, SVB Bank, them collapsing, and remember the first thing I thought was, Deutsche Bank. Is Deutsche Bank next? It's funny that we being Canadians, yes, Luke, sure. I don't know. It depends on the question. What comment you're referring to? What happened to the $800,000? Oh my God! For fuck's sakes, you idiot! You idiot! Before I spoke in the commission, the commission presented all the documents, showed all the money, showed everything that's in escrow, and the guys in Bitcoin distributed it to the truckers. A bunch of wallets were included in the class action suit, and they videoed going to all the truckers and giving them the money. Like, what? Here you go. I shouldn't get angry, and I'm not. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the stakeholders, right? These are the stakeholder smear merchants. They need to distract from the fact that they screwed myself, Bridget, Chad, Chris, Joe, Jason, everybody else who actually built the Convoy. And I don't want to say I built it. They built it. I just became the talking point to help sell the message. But they need to distract that those whores stole, I'm going to use the word hyperbolically, stole $5 million of your donations to put in their fucking pockets while the rest of us are screwed in the class action suit. That's the JCCF, by the way. So I want to know, where's the $5 million in donations for the truckers legal defense? Why has my share and everybody else who I just named not been transferred to the escrow account of my legal counsel so we can defend ourselves? We're still waiting. So when are they going to transfer the money for the truckers for us to defend ourselves? Let me know. Anyways. Do I seem annoyed? It was a long day driving yesterday and the day before. What can I tell you? Yeah, well, agreed, Bridget. It's more complicated though. Do you have any more insight into the privacy feature that is lacking in Bitcoin today? It's pseudo-anonymous, so it can be private. It just depends. BTC Session talked about this on what Bitcoin did and what to do differently next time around. I may touch on this on my... I'm going to be speaking at Bitcoin Canada this year, so I may actually touch on this topic. Stuff that, some of us have all talked about privately behind the scenes and we all know. And I'm going to partially address that issue when I talk at the Bitcoin conference. And but yes, that's quite complex and concerning. I agree. All right, so anyways, when SVB Bank hit the news, my first instinct was Deutsche Bank, because for those of you who don't know, if you watch George Gammon's channel, he really did a good job dissecting a lot of this stuff. That Deutsche Bank, I think their debt load, I think, if I'm getting the numbers correctly, was somewhere in the neighborhood of, or the amount of leverage they had, if I remember, it might have been leverage. Well, leverage and debt is the same thing. Was approximately over $60 trillion. Trillion with a T. Now, just to give, that's a lot of money, by the way. That's a lot of money for any financial institution. And as a comparative, the United States economy is valued at approximately, last number I saw was, $21 trillion a year. So 3 times the U.S. economy is what one bank was leveraged and liable for. I think they've gotten it down now. Since then, last I saw was 40 some odd trillion dollars, if I'm not mistaken. But their balance sheet is atrocious. It's a nightmare. Like, it is completely insolvent, like many banks. Yet it's still operating. And when I saw SVB, I thought, is Deutsche Bank going to be the next one that's hit? That would be my bet. That they're going to be the next ones who are going to be. And how do you bail out? How does any government bail out $60 trillion? Like, you can't. You can't bail out that much. That would make, just for the average person, it's not like, I'm making this oversimplified for a reason, because this is not a financial channel. I just want people to understand the mechanisms of how this all works. If Deutsche Bank goes belly up and they say, okay, they need, there's $60 trillion in debt they need to cover. Now, they wouldn't have to. They'd have to just cover, like with your credit card bill, the minimum payments, unless they're all called in. But let's assume it was the full value. Let's say Deutsche Bank needed to be bailed out by a government for $60 trillion. All right. Well, that's how your cup of coffee ends up costing $1,000. And this is what you see, when countries like, Zimbabwe and Venezuela talk about hyperinflation. That's hyperinflation. Today, a coffee is $1. Tomorrow, it's $300. Next week, it's $1,000. And that's why this is all important. That's why you need to understand what's going on. You don't need to understand the complexities of the repo market, and that the repo market instability was likely caused by Deutsche Bank, and that gets quite complex. But it's important to understand. It's important to understand that this is going to affect all of you directly, and then we can talk about how to prepare. All right. So, come on. Here we go. All right. So, should I address the NPC stakeholder? Well, the Freedom, how do we describe them? The Big Con Canada Inc. NPC stakeholder. His name is Andrew. He's right here. What does he say? It's been missing since he spent a month in Colombia. Well, firstly, it was a month in Florida when I spoke at the Bitcoin conference and 2 months in Colombia total because I couldn't walk. And it's kind of cold. I couldn't drive my truck. I was going to be here alone in the freezing cold by myself. Or I could go stay with my parents for a little bit and then go see friends where it was warm. So I don't know what you're on about, other than the fact, I guess, you and Jimmy are getting your 30 pieces of silver for smearing those of us who actually made the Freedom Convoy happen. So thanks for your support for freedom. Fucking asshole. Tell Keith I say hello. All right. Andrea, there you go. It's so funny that they're now starting to get active. Bridget, do you notice that now that War Campaign understands what's going on, everybody else who follows them now understands what's been done to us? We've been speaking about it for long enough that more and more people, now they're in damage control, right? And they, like all extremists, they're just like Trudeau. They're exactly like Trudeau, all these political hacks. All they can do is double down on the same strategy, right? For a year, they've been trying to defame and destroy my reputation unsuccessfully. They were doing the same to you. It hasn't worked. So what do? Oh, we just need more people doing it. It's so crazy. NPC is, if you've ever played an RPG video game, an NPC is that character you would walk up to and they would read a script to you. And you could go up to all the NPCs because you'd be on one mission. And let's say you'd have to, find 3 keys for the princess. Okay, fine. You go up to NPC. Oh, up in the valley, you'll find one of the keys. And you go to another NPC. It'll type out, oh, go up in the valley, you find one of the keys. That's an NPC, non-playable character, somebody who doesn't think for themselves is what it is. And it's very appropriate here. Okay, so I think the reason I bring this up, I want you all to understand a couple of things. Firstly, the probability of a GFC 2.0 is very much there. And if you lived through it in the United States, for those of you who are American, you'll understand how severe it was. You'll have a mortgage. You might end up being underwater on your mortgage. Your house value might plummet to the point that you owe $600,000, but your house is now worth $300,000. And in the U.S., we saw a massive amount of people who actually walked away from their mortgage, which I don't really understand because the markets are cyclical. Yeah, you're going to be paying for something that's you're paying more than what it's worth, but the market will eventually rebound. So that's one thing I would recommend, as long as you're still employed, which is a big problem that happens in these cases, that if you end up being upside down on your mortgage, don't bail on your house. Just market forces, it's cyclical. Give it a couple of years, it will rebound, right? That's the way our system now works. I don't think it's going to collapse in its entirety. But for people who don't understand Bitcoin, like our 50 cent army here, the NPC stakeholder, this is what Bitcoin was invented for. It was created in 2009 as a response to the corrupt banking system and the corrupt political system with this hard asset and hard money. I'm not going to it'll take a while to explain what that means. People don't understand our fiat banking system and they still use it. you don't really need to understand the intricacies of how the Bitcoin system works to understand it and to use it, right? But anyways, it was designed as a response to the banking system and a response to our corrupt political system who bailed out all those banks but didn't bail out the people who lost their jobs. If you're going to bail out, which I'm not big on, then you bail out the people who need it. I understand the mechanisms why they did the bank, but sorry, not sorry. That's not how you do it, right? So the Bitcoin was designed specifically for this moment. It's not controlled by any banks. It's not controlled by any governments. It's not controlled by any corporate structure, business, or whatever. It's like coronavirus, right? Just goes on its own, and it's now mined all over the world. There's servers in every country, in every jurisdiction that are mining or, quote, minting Bitcoin, which is this fixed asset, and that's an off-ramp that didn't exist in the global financial crisis. Now, I'm not giving you financial advice here, so YouTube, don't get upset at me. I'm not giving financial advice. But as a hedge against the fiat financial system, or as I call it, financial system 1.0, you have a hedge, which is the financial system 2.0, which is Bitcoin. Not crypto, not all these clown coins, not all that stuff, not Ethereum. Those are different for very different reasons. And Jesse, I promised you I would talk a little bit about Bitcoin in simple terms, and I hope this is helping. Forget all of the clown coins. It's not like they're two of the same things and I'm preferring one over the other. No, they're entirely different. One is proof of work, which you don't understand or need to understand right now, and one is proof of stake, which is exactly how our financial system works, right? Forget all the proof of stake fake clown coins. Your off-ramp, your hedge is going to be Bitcoin. Will it work? I don't know. I have no idea. I do know people who got Bitcoin at 9 cents a coin. I know a lot of people who got Bitcoin around $1,000 a Bitcoin. Right now it's what, 20,000? I don't even know. I don't know. What's 30 Canadian, 25,000, something like that, right? But it is the hedge that might just save you. So I recommend to people always put a small percentage of their savings, not a big percentage, not 100%. I put a lot in, but put a little bit in just so you have, and remember, it's peer-to-peer money. So you can transact directly with people. It doesn't go through a bank. It doesn't go through a government. If I want to send Jesse some Satoshis or some sats of Bitcoin, it goes from my phone to her phone through over the Bitcoin ledger, but it's directly my phone to her phone. It's not even on the phone. It's just on the ledger. The phone just shows you where it is on the ledger. So this is an opportunity for everybody to at least prepare for a GFC 2.0, learn a little bit about Bitcoin. I go into Bitcoin beginner spaces all the time. I'll be speaking at the conference in Canada in June. I will also be, I think, speaking at the festival, the Freedom Festival, the Bitcoin Freedom Festival in June as well. And but now's your opportunity, right? Invest in physical gold and silver. Still don't understand Bitcoin. I understand that. It might be easier for me just because I've grown up with a computer, so I've always been very digital, and I don't need to have a tangible asset to understand that it is a hard asset, right? And Bitcoin is a hard asset. Other examples of hard assets are gold and silver, precious metals, diamonds. Those are, diamonds, I guess would be considered a hard asset. But gold is hard money. But so is Bitcoin. And it's a lot easier to, I remember the analogy that was given in the debate with Peter Schiff and Voorhees. It's a lot easier if you're in India and you want to leave India to get on a plane with your cell phone than a bunch of bars of gold in your pocket, right? The transportability of Bitcoin is significantly higher. And the not market cap, what's it called? The fixed rate is it's much more accurate with Bitcoin. So we know exactly how much Bitcoin is mined every day. That's why we can give a value to it, and we understand. You give a date in the future, we'll know exactly how much Bitcoin exists in the universe. With gold, you never know. There could be another mine that's found. There could be more gold that is discovered and put on the market. Mines that have shut down may start up again. And not that it's going to saturate the market, but it's not nearly as fixed as Bitcoin is. Anyways, okay. So be prepared for, just keep it. I know a lot of people don't like financial news. I always used to, because financial news used to, in my opinion, it's not this way anymore, have the least amount of political bias. That seems to unfortunately have changed. But keep an eye on financial news. Look at how banks are doing. Maybe this will level off and we won't enter a GFC 2.0. But it is possible. And if it is, just be prepared and be ready. And, because I was around a lot of people that were really not decimated, they were destroyed during the financial crisis in 2007. I saw what my friends had gone through. I mean, I remember I told this story before. I was at my buddy's house in Miami, and one of his friends was a car dealer. He was a manager for one of the large dealerships. In Florida, the dealerships are gigantic. Everything's big in Florida, right? So he was a GM for this, I think it's GM or salesperson. I think it was a general, I don't know, he's somewhere. He had to do with the sales department and administration, and it was a massive car dealership. It was a Dodge dealership. Actually, the Dodge Challenger just came out. And I remember talking to him about it. And he said that, he's not making any money. Okay, why? Because a large part of his wages were commission. And we asked him, what do you mean? So are people not buying cars? Because nobody really knew back then, right? And he said, oh, no, there's plenty of people who want to buy cars. And he says, okay, so why are you making money? He said, I can't sell any cars. Why, you don't have inventory? He's like, oh, no, I got plenty of inventory. Okay, well, then why can't you sell any cars? He says, you try telling every customer that comes in, I can sell you this brand new Challenger for $50,000, but the only way I can sell it to you is cash. Or go to your bank and get a loan, and good luck right now because the taps are off, right? Because all these banks didn't know what was going to happen, ultimately what happened to Lehman Brothers, but happened to the rest of the commercial banking sector, right? So nobody was loaning money. So it would be a great time to, buy a tractor trailer to buy a second truck. But nobody would be loaning money for it. Good luck getting the financing. So financing is key to our economy right now. And the GFC just obliterated the entire finance industry. That's why it affects all of you. Or if you're in the case where you have to refi your home, or you have to get another mortgage. Who knows, right? Good luck when the entire financial sector is turned off. So be prepared for having the entire financial sector and lending sector turned off. Or if you have a line of credit, let's say you have a $100,000 line of credit, be prepared for that line of credit to be scaled back to a $50,000 line of credit or a $20,000 line of credit. That's what would happen in a GFC. This is why people say always try to reduce your debt as much as possible. So I saw what people were going through, and I made kind of a short list of things that I saw that was helping working with people down there. And the first thing is something that we talk about here all the time, and that is positivity and maintaining the positive frame. I know it sounds corny and it sounds cheesy, and it's really easy to dismiss when you're in a state of anxiety. But tools like the 5-minute journal that I've shared here, and doing your three or 6 questions every morning. What things that you have gratitude for, and what are 3 things you're going to do to make your day amazing. To start your day with that sort of frame while you have to overcome some of this adversity helps a lot. I helped a friend of mine with that during the GFC when he was just obliterated. The next thing is to, oh shoot, I'm late for my meeting. Manage your debt. So try to reduce your debt as much as possible. The next one is have dry powder. Dry powder is a financial term for cash. Have cash at hand. That's what Bitcoin could be for you. Put your emergency savings, some emergency savings in Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin. And the other thing is, remember, it's going to end. All of this is cyclical. If you're upside down on your house, then don't worry. It's going to, the market is going to rebound over time. Just give it some time. And that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Wait, my day starts with when I wake up to Rocky screaming and I yell, "Shut up, Rocky." Why don't you say, "I love you, Rocky"? Rocky, I love you. Right? That will do well. All right. I'm going to talk more about this as time goes on. We'll get into this a little bit more. If you have any other questions about this sort of stuff from a layman who's been around, who understands some of this stuff, please let me know at any time. Do you have a Nostr ID? You know what, Luke? Not yet. I was going to. And there's a bunch of different. I was watching BTC sessions on it, and there was a couple. You got to sign up with Albi and another thing and whatever. I just don't have the time yet. I will do it. So follow me on Twitter, and at some point I'll get a Nostr. I'll have it before the conference for sure, and we can communicate there. But for now, just follow me on Twitter, right? Anyways, okay. So Andrew is still here. Andrew, I do hope at some point you get out of the bubble that they trapped you in, and you're nice to Bridget. Bridget has been through a lot, as have all of us. And Andrew, you're welcome for not wearing a mask. I hope you enjoy it. And you're welcome to you and all of your family for the freedom that they now have, for the sacrifice that we all made, that me and Bridget and everybody else made, and all of us who have been abandoned and are facing a $450 million legal lawsuit without representation because, I don't know, I guess your friends, I don't know if they're your friends, they might not be, but I'm just going to assume for the argument, basically hoard themselves out for, that $5 million that they are keeping for themselves to screw the rest of us who actually made the sacrifice for you and your family not to wear a mask. So you're welcome. I hope you see the light at some point. So Bridget, I love you too. Thank you. And we're all sticking together here, and we're all on the same side. And there's some people who just haven't realized the truth of what's happened. Anyways, look, I didn't realize it's 11:04. I'm late for my meeting. I got to run. I think I'm going to be doing a live stream tomorrow. I'm not sure. Depends. And send me a message, reach out, all that sort of stuff. Be good to other people. I love you all, and I will see you soon. And Jesse, give Rocky a hug for me. I love you, Rocky.